The knock wasn't a knock. It was that hard official pounding that makes your body sit up before your brain even catches up. I glanced at the clock on my nightstand, 5:41 a.m. Outside, it was still dark blue morning, the kind of quiet where the neighborhood feels asleep in a single breath. Then the pounding came again. I pulled on a sweatshirt, walked to the front door and looked through the peephole. 2 people in dark jackets, a third behind them, one of them holding a clipboard. The logo on the jacket hit me like a cold splash. Animal Control. I opened the door just a crack. "Miss Harper?" the woman asked. "Yes," I said, voice still thick with sleep. "We have a report of animal abuse at this address," she said, like she was reading a weather warning. "We need to see the dog." My stomach dropped. "Abuse?" I repeated. No, that's not possible." The man beside her, older, calmer, lifted a folder. "The report included photos," he said. "We're required to investigate immediately." Behind them, a patrol officer stood slightly to the side, hands resting near his belt in that neutral but ready way. Not aggressive, just there. My dog, Duke, trotted into the entryway, tail wagging because he thought this was a party. He leaned into my leg, looking up at me like, "Who are our guests?" The woman's eyes flicked down to him, then back up. "Can we come inside?" she asked. I hesitated. Not because I had anything to hide, because I suddenly realized how fast a lie can become a process. "I'd like to see what you were sent," I said. "The photos." The woman's expression tightened. Professional, not cruel. "We can show you at the truck," she said. "But right now, I need to assess the animal." Duke sniffed her boot and sneezed. The patrol officer actually let out a small breath that might have been a laugh, then caught himself. The man with the folder opened it and took out a paper, clean, printed, with a case number at the top. He held it up so I could see it. "This is a seizure notice," he said. "It allows us to take the animal pending investigation." Pending investigation. Those 2 words are how you lose your footing without anyone touching you. My throat went tight. "You're taking him?" I asked. The woman's voice stayed level. "Temporarily," she said. "If the report is unfounded, he'll be released back to you. But we can't ignore a report like this with photos attached." I stared at Duke. He was still wagging, still happy, still trusting me to keep the world normal. And then I heard another sound behind me. Soft footsteps in the hallway. My sister. Of course. Brooke appeared at the end of the hall in a neat coat like she'd been awake and dressed for hours. Hair perfect, face set into that concerned look she used in public, like she was the reasonable one and I was the problem. She didn't even act surprised. She stepped closer and said, just loud enough for everyone to hear, "I'm so glad they came." My stomach turned. The animal control woman glanced at her. "Are you family?" Brooke nodded quickly. "Sister, I'm just worried." Worried. Like she hadn't been the person texting me last week about how I didn't deserve anything Grandma left. Like she hadn't been looking for a way to paint me as unstable ever since I wouldn't hand over the house keys to the lake place. And she leaned in toward me, voice dropping into a whisper that only I could hear. "Now they'll finally believe you're cruel," she said. My hands went cold. I didn't snap at her. I didn't give her a scene. I just looked at the older animal control officer with the folder. "Show me the photos," I said, "right now." He hesitated, then nodded toward the patrol car and their SUV. "At the vehicle," he said. The woman clipped a leash to Duke's collar. Duke wagged harder. He thought he was going for a walk. I swallowed the lump in my throat and followed them outside. The morning air was sharp, cold enough to make everything feel more real. At the back of the animal control SUV, the older officer opened a tablet. He didn't hand it to me at first. He angled it and scrolled. "These are the attachments," he said. I leaned in, and the first photo showed Duke near his water bowl. The bowl looked empty. The second photo was a close-up of his rib area, taken with harsh flash. It made him look thinner than he was, like the photographer wanted a certain story. The third photo showed his crate. The angle was odd, cropped tight so it looked like he lived in it. My heart was beating so hard I could hear it in my ears. "This is staged," I said, and my voice surprised me because it was calm. "That's not what he looks like. That's not how we live." Brooke made a sad little sound behind me. "I didn't want it to come to this," she said loudly for the audience, "but someone had to speak up." I turned my head and looked at her. Her eyes were shiny, not with tears, with satisfaction. I looked back at the tablet and forced myself to slow down, because this wasn't about reacting. This was about catching the lie. I zoomed in on the first photo, the empty water bowl one. The bowl was stainless steel, and in the curved metal, faint but unmistakable, there was a reflection, a hand holding a phone, and around that wrist, a bracelet, a thin gold chain with a small rectangular charm. My stomach dropped because I'd seen that bracelet 1,000 times. It was Brooke's. She never took it off. She used to joke it was her lucky charm. I stared so hard my eyes hurt. Then I looked up at the officer. "Can I zoom in?" I asked. He nodded, cautious. I zoomed tighter until the reflection was clearer. The hand, the phone, the bracelet, and the corner of a beige sleeve. Exactly like the coat Brooke was wearing right now. I didn't point at her yet. I didn't accuse in the driveway. I just turned the tablet slightly so the older officer could see the reflection too. He stared for a long beat. Then his eyes lifted slowly to my sister, and the woman from animal control stopped adjusting the leash. Even the patrol officer shifted his stance, like something just changed from routine call to hold on. The older officer's voice went quiet. "Ma'am," he said, still looking at Brooke, "were you the person who took these photos?" Brooke's smile twitched. Just once. And she opened her mouth to answer. Brooke didn't answer the question right away. She did what she always does when a lie is about to meet a professional. She widened her eyes, lifted her hands a little, and went full innocent. "I didn't take anything," she said. "I'm just trying to help." The older officer didn't argue with her. He didn't roll his eyes. He just kept his voice even. "Ma'am," he said, "I'm asking because the photo appears to show the person holding the phone." Brooke's smile twitched again. "That could be anyone," she said quickly. "Reflections are weird." The patrol officer, Officer Reyes, shifted his weight and looked at her bracelet, then at the photo, then back at her face. He didn't say anything yet, but his expression changed from "here for safety" to taking notes. The animal control woman still held Duke's leash, and Duke kept wagging like none of this made sense, which honestly made it worse. The older officer turned the tablet back toward himself and scrolled to the report details. Then he looked up. "Who filed this report?" he asked Brooke. So Brooke lifted her chin. "Someone who cares about animals." That was her little trick, answering a question with a slogan. The officer didn't let her. "No," he said, calm. "Did you file it?" Brooke hesitated just long enough to be caught. Then she said, I called because I was worried. That's not a crime." Officer Reyes finally spoke. "Making a report isn't a crime," he said. "Making a knowingly false report can be." Brooke's eyes flashed. "It wasn't false." I didn't jump in and start yelling, "Liar," that never helps. I kept my voice steady. "Can I ask one thing?" I said to the older officer. "Before you take him, can I show you my vet records, vaccines, recent checkup, anything that proves he's healthy?" The animal control woman glanced at Duke, then at the photos on the tablet. "We can take a look," she said, not unkindly. "But with photos attached, we still have to do an exam on our end." That word again, exam, process. I nodded. "Okay, then let me grab his folder. It's in the kitchen." Officer Reyes gave a small nod like, "Go ahead," and followed me to the doorway. Staying in sight, not crowding me. Inside, my hands moved fast. I pulled Duke's vet file from the drawer, vaccination record, the last wellness visit, and the receipt from his dental cleaning 3 months ago. I came back out and handed it over. The older officer scanned the dates and the clinic name, then nodded once. "This helps," he said. Brooke made a little noise beside me, like she was disappointed my dog had paperwork. "I just want him safe," she said, loud enough for the driveway audience. Then she leaned toward me again, voice low, mean and confident. "Go ahead," she whispered. "Show them your little receipts. He's still leaving with them." Officer Reyes's eyes flicked toward her, just a quick glance, then back to me. The older officer turned to Brooke. "I'm going to need your ID," he said. Brooke blinked. "Why?" "Because your name is attached to this report," he replied, "and because if the evidence is staged, we document who supplied it." Brooke's face tightened. She reached into her purse slowly and handed over a driver's license like she was doing him a favor. Officer Reyes looked at it, then handed it back. "Thank you," he said. The older officer tapped the tablet again and scrolled to a section labeled Attachments. "Were these photos taken this morning?" he asked Brooke. Brooke shrugged. "I don't know, I got them." "You got them from where?" he asked. Then Brooke's mouth opened, then closed. "From someone," she said. The older officer nodded once, like he'd just confirmed what he needed to confirm. He turned to the animal control woman. "Let's do this the right way," he said. "We'll take Duke for intake and medical check. We'll place a hold on the case file pending verification." Then he looked at me. "You'll get a receipt with a case number," he said. "You'll get a contact and a time for follow-up. Bring any additional records you have." I forced myself to breathe. "Can I see him?" I asked. "Can I come with him?" The woman shook her head gently. "Not inside the facility," she said, "but you can call with the case number this morning, and we'll tell you what the vet observes." Duke sat down and looked up at me, still trusting, still clueless. I crouched and rubbed behind his ears. "It's okay," I murmured. "I'm coming back for you." Brooke watched, arms folded, wearing that satisfied face like she'd just solved a problem. Then the older officer did something I didn't expect. He held the tablet up, angled away from Brooke, and showed me one more screen. Not the photos, the submission details. A small line of text near the bottom. "Uploaded from mobile device at 5:19 a.m. And underneath it, "Contact number provided for follow-up." He didn't read it out loud. He just looked at Brooke and said calmly, "We'll be following up with the person who uploaded this." Brooke's eyes narrowed. Good. Like she wanted that. Like she thought she could bully her way through follow-up, too. They walked Duke toward the vehicle. The woman lifted him in with practiced gentleness. Duke looked back at me once, confused. The door shut. That sound hit me harder than the pounding on my front door had. The older officer handed me a printed sheet, case number, intake time, facility address, and a line that said, "Hold pending investigation." I gripped it so tightly the paper bent. Brooke leaned in, smirking, and whispered, "Now everyone's going to see what you really are." I looked at her, then looked down at the case sheet in my hands, and I realized something simple. She was counting on my panic, on me melting down and looking guilty, so I didn't give her that. I just walked back inside, shut my door, and opened the one app she forgot existed, the little pet camera I'd installed in the living room last winter, so I could check on Duke when I was out. My thumb hovered for half a second. Then I hit playback and scrolled to early morning. 5:12 a.m., 5:16 a.m., 5:19 a.m. A thumbnail loaded, a beige sleeve, a gold bracelet, and my sister standing in my living room with her phone held up, taking pictures. I stared at the screen until my eyes burned, because she didn't just lie to animal control. She staged it, inside my home, while my dog slept. And now I had the one thing she didn't plan for. A camera that saw everything. I watched the clip 3 times to make sure my brain wasn't playing tricks on me. It wasn't. 5:18 a.m., my front door opened. Brooke walked in like she belonged there. Beige sleeve, gold bracelet flashing when she lifted her phone. She didn't look around like someone scared. She looked around like someone setting a stage. Duke followed her, tail wagging, trusting. She didn't even pet him. On she went straight to the kitchen area, picked up his water bowl and tipped it, slow until the water slid out. Then she set the bowl back down and took the photo. Empty bowl, perfect angle. Neglect. Next clip. She dragged the crate a little so it looked tighter, darker. Took another photo. Then she crouched, pulled Duke closer to the flash, and snapped a rib shot from a harsh angle that made him look thinner than he is. My throat tightened so hard it felt like swallowing glass. This wasn't concern, this was manufacturing. I didn't sit there shaking for 10 minutes. I didn't call 3 friends to vent. I did the boring thing that actually works. I saved the footage 2 ways. Then I exported a short clip with the timestamp visible. Then I called the number on the intake sheet. Animal Control answered on the 3rd ring. County Animal Services, intake line. "Hi," I said, keeping my voice steady. "My name is Marissa Harper. Case number..." I read it off. "My dog Duke was taken this morning. I have video evidence the report photos were staged by my sister inside my home. I need to speak to the investigator assigned." There was a pause. Then, "Hold, ma'am." Music, 30 seconds, maybe a minute. A man's voice came on, calm, older. "This is Investigator Darnell," he said. "I handled the intake." My chest eased a fraction. The same older officer from my driveway. "It's me," I said. "I found something. I have pet cam footage of my sister coming into my house before dawn and taking the exact photos you were shown." There was a beat of silence on his end. Not disbelief, more like him recalculating the whole file in his head. "Can you email it?" he asked. "And yes," I said. "Right now." He gave me an address. I sent it while he stayed on the line. Subject line, case number, video evidence/staged photos. Within 30 seconds, he said, "I'm opening it." I heard clicking. Then he exhaled. Slow. "Yeah," he said quietly. "That's her." My hands went cold again. "So what happens now?" His voice stayed practical. "First, we place a hold that prevents release to anyone except the legal owner," he said. "Second, we document this as a suspected false report with staged evidence. Third, I'm calling our supervisor and the officer who was on scene." "Officer Reyes," I said. "Exactly," Darnell replied. Then he added, "And listen to me. Do not confront your sister alone." "I won't," I said. I hung up and immediately called Officer Reyes. He answered like he'd been expecting it. "Sure, you got something?" he asked. "I have video," I said. "Her inside my house, taking the photos, dumping the water." There was a short pause. "That's what we needed," he said. "Email it to me too, and don't delete anything." I forwarded the same clip. Then I sat on my couch staring at the empty spot where Duke usually slept, trying not to let the quiet swallow me. My phone buzzed. A text from Brooke. "How's the quiet house?" My jaw tightened. I didn't reply. I saved it. 2 minutes later, another text. "If you sign the release and admit you can't handle him, I'll help you get him back." There it was. The reason, not safety, not concern, control. I saved that too. Then, like the universe had decided I'd had enough private betrayal for one morning, my doorbell rang. I froze, looked through the peephole. Officer Reyes. I opened the door and he held up a hand gently like he didn't want to spook me. "I'm not here to scare you," he said. "I'm here to document." He stepped inside, looked around, and nodded toward the pet cam in the corner. "Good," he said. "That camera just turned this from argument into evidence." He took a short statement, clean, simple, then asked me to show him the texts. He photographed them off my phone with his department camera. No drama, just procedure, the kind that sticks. Then his radio chirped. He listened, then his expression shifted. "Animal control supervisor just flagged your case," he said. "They're holding Duke. No release, no adoption, no transfer. Not until this is cleared." My chest finally unclenched a little. "What about my sister?" I asked. "Reyes didn't promise handcuffs on the spot, and he promised something better. A recorded lie doesn't disappear," he said, "and now she's left fingerprints, video, texts, and a staged report." He stepped toward my front window and glanced outside, then back at me. "One more thing," he said. "Do you know how she got into your house?" I swallowed. She still had a spare key. I never thought she'd do this. Reyes nodded once, like he'd heard that 100 times. "Change the locks today," he said, "and tell your landlord this is tied to an active investigation." I nodded. His phone buzzed, and he glanced at the screen. "Here we go," he muttered. "What?" I asked. He looked up. "Your sister just showed up at Animal Services," he said, "and she's telling them she's the responsible owner who can sign whatever they need." My stomach twisted. Reyes's voice stayed calm. "She's trying to take Duke before the file fully flips," he said. He moved toward the door. "Come with me," he said. "You're not walking into that building alone." And as we stepped outside, my phone buzzed again, this time a call from an unknown number. I answered. It was Investigator Darnell. "Marissa," he said, voice tight but controlled, "your sister is here right now. She's trying to sign a surrender form in your name." My heart slammed. Darnell continued, low and urgent. "Get here and bring your ID." We didn't speed like a movie. We drove like people who know the worst thing isn't being late. It's letting someone sign your life away while you're stuck at a red light. Officer Reyes called ahead while we were in the car. Short, calm sentences. "Do not accept any signatures. Owner is en route. Preserve paperwork. Hold the animal." When we pulled into County Animal Services, my stomach was tight enough to hurt. The lobby looked exactly like you'd expect. Plastic chairs, posters about spaying and neutering, a faint smell of disinfectant, and a counter with a glass window. And there she was. Brooke was at the counter in the same neat coat, hair perfect like she'd been on her way to brunch, not to steal a dog out of custody. She was leaning in close to the clerk, voice soft and concerned. "I'm just trying to help," she was saying. "She's overwhelmed. She told me she can't handle him." The clerk behind the glass looked uncomfortable, pen hovering. Not signing anything yet, thank God. Brooke saw me and her face lit up with a quick flash of rage. Then she smoothed it into a smile in under a second. "Marissa," she said. I loud enough for the whole lobby. "Thank God, tell them. Tell them you're surrendering him." Officer Reyes stepped in before I could even speak. "Ma'am," he said to the clerk, showing his badge, "do not accept any documents from this person." Brooke's eyes narrowed. "This is a family matter," she said quickly. Reyes's voice stayed calm. "It stopped being a family matter when you sent staged evidence to a government agency," he replied. Brooke's smile tightened. "What staged evidence?" Reyes looked at her like she was insulting everyone's intelligence. "We have video," he said simply. The lobby went quiet in that weird public way where strangers pretend they can't hear, but nobody moves. Brooke's eyes flicked, fast to the security camera in the corner, then back to me. "You're really doing this," she hissed. "And over a dog." I didn't take the bait. I walked up to the counter, held up my driver's license, and slid it under the little opening. "I'm the owner," I said, "and I'm here to stop any surrender paperwork." The clerk took my ID, compared it to the file, and nodded. "Thank you," she said, relieved. Investigator Darnell came out from a back hallway at that moment, clipboard in hand, face set. He didn't look at Brooke first. He looked at me. "Ms. Harper," he said, "we received your video. We verified the timestamps. Your sister's photos match the staged positions." He turned toward Brooke. "Ma'am," he said, "step back from the counter." Brooke lifted her chin like she was offended. "I'm the one who reported abuse," she snapped. "You should be thanking me." Darnell didn't argue. He held up a folder and opened it right there, flipping to a page with printed thumbnails of the photos that had been submitted. Then he turned to another page. Still frames from my pet cam clip, side by side. Same bowl, same angle, same crate position, and in one frame, that bracelet catching the light. Darnell tapped it once with his pen. "Do you wear a bracelet like that?" he asked Brooke. Brooke's mouth opened. She closed it. Then she tried to laugh it off. "Lots of people wear bracelets," she said. Reyes didn't move. "Show us your wrists," he said. Brooke's eyes widened. "Excuse me?" "Show us your wrists," he repeated, calm but firm. Brooke's jaw tightened. Slowly, she pulled her sleeve back just a little. Gold chain, rectangular charm. Exactly. The clerk behind the glass went very still. Darnell didn't gloat. He just nodded once. Like the last piece clicked into place. "Okay," he said. "That's enough for me." Brooke snapped, voice sharp now, mask slipping. "So what? I took pictures. I was worried." Darnell's tone went cold. "You didn't just take pictures," he said. "You entered someone else's home before dawn, staged evidence, submitted it as abuse, and then attempted to sign surrender paperwork in her name." Brooke laughed, loud and brittle. "You're acting like I committed a felony." Officer Reyes's voice stayed flat. "You might have," he said. Brooke's face tightened. "Marissa is cruel," she snapped. "She doesn't deserve that dog." Darnell didn't respond to insults. He turned to the clerk. "Flag the report as suspected false," he said. "Lock the file." Then he looked back at me. "Duke is not being released to anyone today," he said. Not until the vet completes the intake check and we close the loop on documentation." My heart jumped. "So I can't take him now?" "I'm trying to protect you," Darnell said. "If we release him in the middle of a disputed report, your sister will claim we ignored abuse. We do it clean. Today." He turned back to Brooke. "And you," he said, "are being formally trespassed from this facility pending investigation." Brooke's eyes flashed. "You can't ban me." Darnell nodded toward Reyes. "He can," he said. Reyes stepped forward. "Ma'am," he said, "if you don't leave, you'll be removed." Brooke's breathing changed, fast, angry. Then she did what she always does when the room turns on her. She tried to flip it. "This is because she's manipulating you," she snapped at Darnell. "She's always been—" Darnell held up a hand. "We're not discussing your family history," he said. "We're discussing your actions." He turned to me. "I need one more thing from you," he said. "How did she get inside your house?" I swallowed. "Spare key." Reyes nodded, already writing. Darnell's eyes stayed steady. "Change your locks today," he said, "and we'll add that to the report." Then he looked back at Brooke one last time. "Your report included photos," he said. "Those photos will now be part of an investigation into false reporting and identity fraud." Brooke's face went pale at the edges. Identity fraud was the part she didn't like hearing out loud, because it isn't family drama. It's paperwork with consequences. The clerk behind the counter handed Darnell a form. Darnell signed something, then looked at me. "We're scheduling the release," he said. You'll get him back today." My chest tightened with relief. Then Darnell turned to Brooke, voice low and final. "And you're going to receive a call from an investigator," he said. "Do not delete anything. Do not contact your sister. Do not contact this facility." Brooke stared at him. Then she did something that told me she was more scared than she wanted to look. She left, fast, without another word. As she pushed through the lobby doors, her phone buzzed in her hand. She glanced down, eyes narrowing, And for a second, I wondered if she was about to do what people like her always do when caught. Try to rewrite the story, but she couldn't rewrite video. She couldn't rewrite a timestamp. And she couldn't rewrite the fact that Duke was about to walk back to me with an official release form. Darnell turned to me. "I come back in 2 hours," he said. "Bring your ID. We'll do the release and document the condition." Reyes leaned toward me as we stepped away from the counter. "This part matters," he murmured. "When you leave today, you leave with paperwork." I nodded, because now I understood the real win wasn't yelling at Brooke in a lobby. The win was walking out with Duke, and a file that said she lied. 2 hours later, I was back at the same counter with my ID in my hand and my heart in my throat. A tech in scrubs walked Duke into the lobby on a leash. He looked a little confused, a little tired. But the second he saw me, his whole body lit up, tail wagging so hard it shook his hips. That little happy whine he makes when he can't decide whether to jump or sit. And I crouched, and he pressed his forehead into my shoulder like he'd been holding his breath all day. The tech smiled softly. "He's healthy," she said. "Hydrated, no injuries, normal weight. We documented everything." Investigator Darnell stepped out with a folder and a single sheet clipped on top. He didn't hand Duke over first. He handed me the paper first. Because paper is the difference between "I got my dog back" and "my sister tries again tomorrow." "This is the release form," he said. "It confirms the intake exam was normal and the hold is lifted." At the bottom was the line that mattered. "Report classified, unfounded. Evidence of staging preserved." I stared at it until the words felt real. Darnell kept his tone calm. "Your sister's report is now flagged," he said, "and your video is preserved in the file. If there's another report with similar claims, the system will show the history." That was the door closing. Then Officer Reyes walked in with one more page, thin, official, and signed. He placed it on the counter and slid it toward me. "Case report number," he said, "and a trespass notice for the facility." Trespass notice, meaning Brooke couldn't walk back in and try the surrender trick again. Darnell nodded once. "And," he added, "because she attempted to sign surrender paperwork in your name and submitted staged evidence, we're forwarding this to our investigations unit." I didn't ask, "Will she go to jail?" Like a movie. I asked the question real life cares about. "What happens next?" I said. Darnell answered in plain English. "She will be contacted for an interview," he said. "Her report and attachments are already preserved. Officer Reyes documented the bracelet match and your video. If she refuses to cooperate or tries to interfere again, it gets worse for her." Reyes leaned in, voice low but steady. "And you're going to file for a protective order if she contacts you again," he said. "We can attach this case number and the video. That makes it simple." That right there was the unanswered questions. Fix. Clear next steps, tied to paperwork. I signed the release form. Darnell watched, then stamped it and handed me a copy. Then, finally, he handed me Duke's leash, and that leash felt like my life returning to my hand. As we walked out, Duke kept glancing up at me like he was checking. "We're really leaving, right?" "Yes," I whispered. "We're leaving." 2 weeks later, when I got the update that made the whole thing stop being he said/she said, a voicemail from a number labeled County Investigator. "Ms. Harper," the voice said, "this is Investigator Shaw. I'm calling regarding the false report filed under case number. We completed the review. Your sister's submission is being referred for prosecution consideration, and a no-contact advisory has been issued." No contact advisory. That meant if she tried to text me like nothing happened, it wasn't just sister drama anymore. It was part of a documented case. And then the practical consequence landed. A certified letter arrived addressed to Brooke. Not from me, from the county. I didn't open it because it wasn't mine. But I did see the return address. And I did hear her voice later that night, on a voicemail she left me from an unknown number, shaking with rage. "You got me flagged," she hissed. "I can't volunteer anywhere. I can't even—" She cut herself off like she'd almost admitted something bigger. Then she spat, "You ruined my reputation." I saved that voicemail too, not to be petty, to keep the door closed, because now I knew her pattern. And yes, there was a reason she did it. It wasn't about Duke. It was about control, about punishing me for saying no in other places. A week before the report, she'd tried to push me into signing something related to family property. One of those, just sign it, it's easier moments. I didn't. So she went for the one thing she thought would break me in public. My dog. She just forgot one thing. I wasn't arguing with her anymore. Or I was documenting her. Here's how it ended, clean and real. Duke came home with a release form stating the report was unfounded. The staged evidence and her attempted surrender signature were preserved. The facility issued a trespass notice and locked the file against future interference. The case was referred for investigation with a report number attached. And I changed my locks the same day, because I'm not giving anyone a spare key to my life again. I didn't want revenge. I wanted my dogs safe. I wanted the lies to stop. And this time, there was paperwork that made stop mean something.